So where are you stationed nowadays?
So I'm here in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so just in North Carolina. Just kind of hunkered down, not doing a whole lot of training right now, but just kind of just visiting all kinds of different trails around, and just you know, working on this workout app just for fun, and if I can try learning how to design stuff. That's pretty much what I'm up to. So
All right.
yeah, how's Oregon?
It's good. It's mid 80s today. So
Oh,
be-
that's great.
beautiful beautiful weather in Oregon right now.
Good. Yeah, that's it's raining over here. Not too fun.
Well, you know Oregonians after a couple days of 80s will probably be wanting the rain again.
Yeah. No, I mean this is like some of the best time in Oregon. For sure. Like I remember just being out there in the summer. Like it's really, really nice. So
Well, thank
but yeah.
you, Curtis Beach, for joining us today. I'm excited to have different guests speak with our team and just share their experiences and just kind of connect the world of track a little bit more. So,
For sure.
and it's a little extra cool that Coach Campbell had a chance to be on the staff there at Duke when you were there, so a little bit more connection.
Yeah, I know exactly. I remember working with him. He's great.
So why don't you just start just tell us a little bit about you. You had a very decorated junior career, set the decathlon record in just about every implement style there was, the youth, the junior, the using the senior implements while being under 18, and then off to Duke, and just kind of tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so well I did my first decathlon when I was 14. I started running when I was 7 before I even knew that I could do it as a sport. My dad told me that there's a thing that I could do that was just I can run without chasing a ball. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so I did cross country, and then from there just did a bunch of different events and figured I'd decide on one eventually, and I never did. And yeah, track's just kind of been my life for like most of it ever since I discovered running. And then yeah, I went to Duke, and fortunately had the opportunity to keep running post collegiately. Ran for Nike for 2 years, and went to the World Indoor Championships in Portland, and that was like one of the best experiences I ever had. Just like over there, like in Portland at that level of a meet, and competed over at Lewis and Clark, I think twice. Ran the 800 over there, and I think the 400 hurdles once. And then yeah, then came out to North Carolina again and tried to hang on and chase maybe an Olympic team, but kind of had a lot of injuries, and that's postponed. So now I'm just kind of, not sure what I'm going to do right now, but that's kind of been the journey. Yeah.
I've got another year to decide, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
See where it takes you. So,
Yeah.
So we talked with Allison Halverson last week, and
Awesome.
Another multi-athlete, and it's unique hearing that both of you had distance backgrounds first, and then became multi-athletes. I know you had a few standout moments mid-distance wise that I remember. I mentioned to you the Armory, watching an 800 indoor there. And as a distance coach, I selfishly wondered why you didn't just stay with the distances. So what, it sounds like you just have this like massive love for just competing with anything, not one event, not, just tell us a little bit about just your love of the sport.
Yeah, it grew very organically and very like naturally for me. My parents never really pushed me to do track, and there wasn't even a point when I got pretty good at track. I thought about doing basketball, and they're like, "Yeah, just do whatever you want to do." And so I think that love for track stemmed a lot from having the freedom to choose what I wanted to do, both from my parents and my coaches. And there's nothing that pushed me in a particular direction. And I think if that was the case, I probably would have actually just stayed with distance and not discovered, you know, the abilities I had in high jump or pole vault or long jump, and or even stuck with it as long as I have. Uh, and and I'm also kind of finding, like, even with quarantine now and not competing, just going out and exploring different trails I never had the chance to explore, like while being in North Carolina. Um, I think, you know, I ended up just running a marathon just because I wanted to see how far I could go off of decathlon. You know, it's just something I always wanted to do, and I think that was definitely fostered from just my parent, like anyone guiding me, just kind of letting me go and figure it out.
Another one of the kind of standout moments I remember, just the 1500 in the decathlon. I think if memory serves me correct, you have the second fastest
Mm-hmm.
1500 in world history at the end of a decathlon. Have you ever run a 1500 fresh that was faster than that decathlon one?
Nope.
No.
Nope. And none with that level of pressure. That it was the pressure that I think pulled me along for sure. Like it was, yeah, nationals, and I think there were four of us with a chance at winning it, and all four of us ran a personal best. And the guy who beat me, I got second in that, just ran a better personal best than I ran. Um, so yeah, that was a very nerve-wracking race.
Another memorable 1500 was the Olympic trials when Ashton broke the world record. You were uh, 20 meters or so ahead for most of that 1500, and definitely could have finished that race ahead and taken that moment for yourself, and he still would have broken the world record and had that excitement. But what went through your mind kind of as you came off that final turn and faded into lane 2 and just started being a spectator, and you had the best seat in the house?
I did have the best seat in the house. Well, I mean, I didn't really think about anything. It just kind of happened. Because I actually talked to him before the race, and I said, "Hey, if you need someone to pace you, I can pace you through the time." And he actually, said, "No, like I got it. Like just run your race." And so I did run my race for the most part, and I went out ahead, and I had no part in pacing him. Like really, that was mostly Joe Detmer that ended up being right there with him. Joe Detmer is another decathlete who, by the way, like
Very
is an
good.
outstanding 1500 guy. Yeah, he did a double decathlon. It's like 20 events in 2 days. Ended up scoring like 7,800 within the decathlon, within the double decathlon. Side note, but like incredible athlete, and he actually had the world record in that event at that time. So underrated story with Joe Detmer being the guy who actually paced him. Actually had a world record in the double decathlon. Anyways, I was running my race, and then at the bell lap, I remember that I heard his split, and I knew he was already pushing it, and his split was behind pace with a lap to go. So I thought, like, it's like, oh, he's not going to get it. And then I kind of mostly forgot about the race and started to kick and ran faster. And then I heard the crowd get a little louder, and I remember thinking, like, well, that's interesting. And then I kind of looked back, and he's actually closer to me. He like made up ground on me. I'm like, oh, that's really weird, because I was actually pushing it. And then about 200 to go, I look back again, like he's closer. And then like around the final turn, I look back again, and he's like getting pretty close to me. I'm like, how is this happening? And then at that point, I knew he had a chance. And so then my mind just switched. Like there was nothing of my race. I was like, he's got a chance. And then I looked back and like waved him on, and as he went in front of me, like he crossed the line. Like I've never had this feeling like in a running race where it's like that instant like knowledge, like if they get it or not get it. Like in a high jump bar, like there's that moment, or the basketball shooter like shoots a 3-pointer, there's that moment.
Yeah.
Like I looked up at the clock, and is like, is it going to be above 416 or below 416? And I saw that it was below, and that was that moment. I was like, wow, like they did it. And it was so cool. It was really cool. It made me forget about my awful decathlon performance of that 2 days. So that was fun.
The decathlon's such a great brotherhood. You know,
Hmm.
you guys just pain and suffering with each other for 2 days. You know, just talk a little bit about what uh, what that is like. You know, uh, it's kind of a team in itself. You know, you guys are all competing against each other, but you guys are all definitely each other's biggest fans. And you
Yeah.
know, I think that usually that victory lap after that 1500
Hmm.
all together is a big sign of that. So just talk a little bit about the brotherhood of the decathlon.
Yeah. I mean, we spend so much time together that there's really no other way to be. Like, it we're there for 2 days, and it's one of those things, a little bit like the distance running brotherhood or a marathon. Like, you're going through something really hard, and just finishing is an accomplishment in and of itself. And all of us kind of rely and lean on one another to just finish, or to finish well, because there's so many different pressures that want to get in the way of you trying to push yourself to your fullest capacity. It's, in distance running, it's it hurts a lot, and you got to have a certain amount of will to overcome, to at least ignore that discomfort. And in the decathlon, you have that and all kinds of other discomforts that go along with it. Like the pole vault, you're tired and you're on the biggest pole vault stick of your life, and you're like, how am I going to vault? Like, it's like jumping off a cliff and doing a backflip, or like doing some action sport. It's like that type of fear. And there's all kinds of different types of fears, especially over the 2 days. And so I think the fact that all of us are going through that together just strengthens that brotherhood. And at the end, like, of course we're all going to do a victory lap, because like everyone had an accomplishment by doing that. So
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one more question, then see if
sure.
some team members have some questions for you. But what do you have a favorite event of either anything within the decathlon or an event outside the decathlon? Do you have a favorite in track and field?
Yeah, I mean, I never did have a favorite event until maybe the last like 4 or 5 years, but I kind of settled on it. Like, 800. I love the 800. It's not in the decathlon, but like that's my favorite to run and my favorite to watch. It's like the perfect distance where it's like far enough to where you can watch the race, but not so long to where there's like this middle period where you're just kind of waiting for something to happen. Like, there's always something happening in the 800. And um, and it also brings together all kinds of different types of athletes, and using so many different energy systems. Like, you have the sprinter person who uses that energy system, or you have the distance guy running the same time but doing it in very different ways, and it's so unpredictable. So yeah, 800. And it's my best. That's my best event. So, like, a little biased, a
A personal bias.
little personal biased. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone on the team has a question for Curtis, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I have a question. I did the decathlon and I just started last year, my freshman year, for the first time. And I was just wondering what it's like for you when you do bad in like one event, or you don't maybe meet the standard that you had, like moving on to that next event and just kind of forgetting about it. And
Hmm.
I don't
That's a good question. It's something that I struggle with a lot, and I think every decathlete struggles with. That is a pressure that, I saw with Ashton. I saw with some of the best decathletes, and the ones that, like, it's not something that will ever go away, like that feeling of wanting to give up. But it's, especially after you have a bad early event. But it's the athletes that can recognize that there's many different ways you can look at it, and many different mentalities you can have, and knowing that, being aware of that when it happens, but then knowing you could put it in its place and just kind of step back and pick and choose what type of mentality will work in that situation. So instead of just kind of like being on this wave of however you feel in that moment, you just get swept by like all your feelings. You're able to kind of step back and recognize, okay, this is one way of thinking. What are all of my options as far as a way of thinking to get around this? So then you could think like, okay, like maybe I want to give up, but like, what if this is setting me up for a comeback? Like, how cool would it be to have a comeback and like, do XYZ down the road? Like, there's all kinds of ways you can kind of trick your mind to get yourself into like a spiral of like positivity instead of negativity. Another thing that I haven't experimented with, but like I thought was really interesting. I was reading actually something from Shalane Flanagan, how she has like 3 goals. One of them is like A, which is like the perfect day. And then there's B, which is like a really good scenario. And then like a C goal, which is like, if things really aren't going very well, like maybe I'll at least try and do this. And so when everybody tends to shoot for that perfect day, and I think with her, with having plan A, B, and C, you kind of free yourself up from that addiction to perfection. Because when you don't get perfect, you want to give up. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to have my perfect day, but let me go for goal B. It's like, oh shoot, like I'm getting like a cramp in the marathon or something. Well, let me at least go for goal C. So maybe having 3 different goals. I haven't done that, but that's something I think doing more decathlons would be really good to keep you in it. And yeah, like I said earlier, just like know that that's a totally normal thing. Everyone goes through it. Even the best athletes go through that. And the ones that are the best are the ones that can manage themselves through it. So does that kind of answer your question? Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No problem. That's cool.
Hey,
You do the decathlon. Yeah. Sorry.
I got you. How you doing? Good to see
Good.
you.
Hey, what's up, man?
It's the same old. Congrats on the
Yeah.
marathon.
Thanks. I didn't think I would make it. I thought I'd go maybe 10, but I should have stopped.
Yeah,
I'm a bigger Curtis Beach fan now.
Thanks. Yeah.
Next time you finish up the steps, you gotta do the Rocky celebration. So.
Oh, I know. I was too tired. No, I didn't even think about that.
Well,
yeah, I will next time.
So at Lewis and Clark, it's a really rigorous academic school. Obviously, you went to Duke, and you kind of had some of the same challenges that a lot of our athletes have here in terms of being a student and an athlete, especially at a elite school. How were you able to be a student at Duke and also excel to a level that obviously led you to being a professional athlete?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think time management is really big. I mean, that I think goes without saying. Like, I didn't do this in as much in college as I should have, but keeping a schedule and sticking to that schedule, getting yourself in a routine, a good morning routine, and just a good blocked schedule, knowing what you're going to do when, really helps. And then I think the other big thing, especially now, is when you're doing something, you're just doing that thing. Like, I can't tell you, I'm even at Duke, like, I remember opening up the laptop, and that's when Facebook was really big. Not as much anymore. I'd be in class, and I'd see all these, like, little blue bars of, like, the Facebook whatever thing at the top. And I think what helped me, and I wasn't always great with this, but, like, when I was managing things well, when I was focusing on that thing, I was just focusing on that thing. Phone was away. Like, Instagram wasn't that big then, fortunately. Otherwise, it would have been a lot harder. But like, just focusing on that thing and like staying scheduled. And also, I mean, to be fair, I was doing the decathlon, and track was my big thing. And so like, I did shift around my classes a little bit to like make sure track was, for better or worse, like the top priority for me. So my classes I wasn't doing pre-med, I wasn't doing biomechanical engineering or anything like that. So maybe I should learn from some Lewis and Clark athletes doing that. but yeah, I think that'd be my best advice. Yeah.
I kind of just have a general question. As such an accomplished athlete, I was kind of curious, what's been the biggest obstacle you've faced in your career, and how you've overcome that obstacle over the course of that? I mean, maybe it was like a single race or a longer thing, whatever, however you want to answer.
That's a good question. The one that comes to mind is probably the last 2 to 3 years, I've been very consistently injured. And that's been really hard because there was a time, I think the relative to my age group, the best part of my career might have been high school and college, and did pretty well as a pro, like relative to everyone else competing there. But like at one moment of my career, I was like the guy, and then I was no longer that guy at the top. And then especially being injured, I was like, can I even do this anymore? And so what was really challenging was finding a way to have that unconditional confidence that didn't come from my performances relative to other people. And I found that getting through this injury, and I finally did, the biggest factor was my mentality. Like, it was just sheer optimism and belief. And that came from not denying that I had a problem. I mean, it came from, seeing a psychologist, seeing a sports psychologist, and sports psychologists and otherwise, other psychologists too. It came from, journaling. Like, journaling really helps. Like, it was when I decided to not attack the injury itself and attack like my mentality that went along with it. And if I was like doing all the right things physically, but my mind wasn't in the right place, like, I wasn't really moving the needle. But it was until the moment I felt like, all right, I can be positive about this and optimistic and feel like I'm gaining ground in spite of like the place I'm at now. That's what really helped me turn the corner. Because that was tough, like a long-term injury. And like, I mean, unfortunately I didn't have any performances to show for it because the season was canceled, but like, I felt really good and I came off the injury. So yeah. Good question.
Thanks for answering.
Kind of tapping off of that a little bit. I believe May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So just talk a little bit about the, I guess, the stigma of, you being a mentally sound person to begin with, but you're still kind of seeking out the help from the, the psychiatrist or the sports psychologist, just from different avenues. Just talk about how that can benefit you, even if you think everything's going fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it really seems like you're fine because the problems you're not aware of, like, you're not aware of them, and it doesn't seem like it's a problem until like something else is uncovered, until someone else asks you these questions or gets you to think about things in a certain way that kind of uncovers things that you're not aware of. I think there is a stigma, especially with male athletes, about seeking help, seeking mental health help. And because I think there's this perception in society that, like, you got to be tough, you got to man up, all this stuff, like, don't show emotion. That's all very still deeply ingrained in our society. And I think I think it's really stronger to kind of like have some humility and like say, maybe it doesn't hurt to have help. And I did get that. And honestly, like, it it's one of the best things I've ever done. And it was one of the hardest things I've done too. Like, cause I still had that, like, kind of that, I don't know, sense of like, I have a problem and I should be able to fix it on my own. Um, when really the results, coming off on the other side of it, like, and still not, and I'm not even on the other side of it. There's always work to be done. But like, it really is helpful. It really is. And
How helpful is it
and
that person is different than your coach? Because, as coaches, we think we wear all the hats. We, at times we're the sports performance psychologist. At times we're the
mhm,
physiologist. At times we're, the shoulder to cry on. And at times we're the person to tell you to get tough. So we feel, as especially in track, we feel like we're kind of wearing all those hats at once. So just maybe some of the importance of finding someone that's outside that the coach as well. I mean, it's important to speak with your coach and stay on the same page.
mhm.
Also to maybe find someone outside.
Yeah, well, I think it's helpful. Like, one, I am a fan of being very transparent with my coach, because it only helps. Like, there's not much to be gained by like hiding an injury, or like, like giving mixed signals about how you felt in the workout. Like, I think the coach and athlete need to be on the same page, but like, the it, at a deeper level, so I guess, especially with like mentality, like having someone else that you can just tell everything to, and that's not going to get out to other people. Like, it's just between you and like a psychologist, and anything in that room is like a safe space that you can just work on that together, knowing that there's not going to be other social repercussions from it. Like, is honestly a little bit of a safe haven just to like work on that in that moment. With that, and knowing that it's not going to get out unless it's something like really really serious. In which case, I think they legally have to. Um, so yeah, I think it's important, just knowing that like none of the other stuff that happens from like, or the risks of telling someone, like, they're just not there when you talk to a professional. So.
Hey Curtis, I got another one.
Mhm.
We have a couple 400 hurdlers in the crew, a couple ones that have picked it up recently, who, much like yourself, came from a bunch of different events and then are learning how to 400 hurdle.
Mhm.
What any tips, advice from someone who obviously learned it and then did it at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, 400 hurdles is really tricky. Like, I did a lot better when I just didn't think about steps and I just ran. Like, I think it's really easy to be obsessed, like, am I going to run 15 or 14 or 30 or like whatever, 16, 17 steps. And I think this just goes along with my personality, is like, I never count steps in long jump. I never count steps in high jump. Not in pole vault. I just run. And for me, like, it might not be the same for everyone else, but for me, when I kept it intuitive and just ran, and whatever foot came up, that's what came up. Like, that's when I ran my fastest. Um, I wasn't always great at that, because like there was always a race where I was like, oh man, am I going to count? Like, what's it going to be? Um, but I think, yeah, I don't know. That's I don't know if that's the best advice. I don't know if you tell your athletes something different. If I just, um,
No, that's
but
good.
that's what helped me. Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of other things. Work on both legs. That's definitely a game changer, I think. Um, just no inhibitions. You just got to go. Don't be fearful of it. I think when I was tentative in the beginning, like, my whole race wasn't going to be good. Just being aggressive, like, all the way through, like, those were my best races. So yeah.
Would you say I'm a hurdler and I run the 110 and the
Awesome.
400. So I was just a little curious. Would you say that you still feel like you have one dominant leg in the hurdles, or would you say you've gotten to the point where your both legs are kind of around the same?
I definitely had a dominant leg. That was my right side. When I went on the other side, it was so ugly. Like, it wasn't good. I like managed, but I really tried to. If I could go on the non-dominant leg twice in the race, like, that was pretty good. Um, but what was weird is, like, sometimes I would be on the non-dominant side more and, like, run a faster time somehow. But I think really what mattered more was the speed and the rhythm into it, and not necessarily which leg came up. So that was kind of cool. And I only really was serious about it for a year. So, like, honestly, maybe you guys have better information than I do about how to do it well. So I wouldn't take this as, like, gospel by any means, but, like, uh, but yeah, that was my experience. Just, yeah, definitely my right lead leg was where I wanted to be, but didn't always have to be. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Hmm.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I relate very strongly to your story of being injured for, did you say 2 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been injured for a while. I was out all last season with shin splints, and I'm a senior. So now that I'm healed, I had one good meet under my belt. But I wanted to know if you did much cross training, and if so, like, how do you think it benefited your injury, or like what did you do, or like what was that part of your healing experience like?
Yeah. So I have. I guess the cross training is a little bit different. It was basically, I did the most I could do that was closest to what I would normally do in a normal race setting. Like, so, or not a race setting, like a practice setting. So, like, I would have, if I couldn't run, I would have these bike workouts where I would have these workouts that simulated acceleration. So I would do, like, 10 seconds really hard on the bike at high resistance, just pushing, 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 and then I would back off and have long rest. So instead of, like, just going in the pool or going, I mean, not that the pool's bad, but, like, we're just, like, going on the bike for 30 minutes. Like, I would go on the bike, but, like, set up the workout to where it would, as close as possible, mimic what I was normally wanting to do. Um, uh, yeah, and then another big thing with injuries, I think, is just making sure all your joints are mobile, soft tissue is moving well, and yeah. So I think, yeah, that's a cross training I did mostly. So
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. But again, I mean, the biggest thing was mentality for me, and it's weird because it doesn't seem like it correlates, but the more I just, like, was like, this is gonna work. Like, I'm gonna get there. And it wasn't a false belief. It wasn't a false sense. It was just like just having confidence. Like, it was believing in the plan and seeing where the plan was gonna take me, like, to progression, and kind of seeing that route. So that was kind of the key. And that led to different creative ways of rehab techniques too, when I was into it. But if you're just kind of there moping around, like, you're probably not going to do the cross training very well anyways. So
How important is it to, you still might have the same end goal, but redirecting your thought process? I think we've spoken with a couple other pros that had mentioned, like, when they got hurt, not trying to keep banging their head against the wall, whether continuing to try and train as hard as they could, or if I'm going to go to cross training, I'm just going to kill it as hard as I could. How important is it to redirect your thought process in, I'm not on plan A, but I am on plan B that can still get there?
Yeah, so I think it's okay to, at least at first, like, experience and feel the emotions of not, like, being where you want to be. So I don't think you always have to constantly operate in the state of, like, I need to change my mentality, I need to do this. Like, let yourself feel and experience the authentic frustration that goes along with it. Like, let yourself just vent and talk to other people about it, or just, like, bang your head against the wall for, I don't know, like, just be frustrated, but just when that is out, like, then you're able to kind of calm down and come to a clear sense of like developing perspective. And so I think, yeah, letting yourself feel and experience emotions, but then also just, I think it comes down to like just seeing all your options of the different ways you can think. And some of the best athletes that I've seen, and I think if anyone's watching that Michael Jordan documentary, like you see this with him all the time. He's taking like what would normally be a bad situation or a poor way of looking at things, and he somehow flips it to, this is great, this is amazing. Like, what was it? Like there's a few examples of like where he was like hurt and like, well, I have nothing to lose. Everyone's expecting me to like not do well. Or it was very interesting how he could take like a complete negative where most people would just be like, say, oh, I guess it's over, and turn it into something extremely positive. There's also like another, like, I might be rambling at this point. So feel free to stop me if I'm going on too long. But another like meditation, I think, technique is a good analogy I've heard was like all of your thoughts are like cars driving down a highway, and like each thought is like a car, and like you don't have to like jump in that car going on the highway. You can take a step back and recognize that all of your thoughts are just kind of coming and going and coming and going, and then like there's one that'll come by that's like, oh, okay, that'll work, and they're just picking that and going along with it. So that was a long answer, but hopefully something in there helps.
Someone will grab something from it.
So yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking with us today, giving us a little bit more insight to you, and some awesome topics that you hit on that we haven't heard from people before. So, we appreciate your time, and thank you, and we hope you continue to get more healthy or stay healthy, and enjoy the last part of your competitive career that you're chasing.
Yeah, thank you for setting this up, and I'm so pumped you thought of me for this, and yeah, good luck to you and your team, and yeah, just stay resilient, and yeah, keep learning. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, Curtis.